All right, so I'll start by introducing myself. This is me, or rather, this was me. Before last week, I decided to chop more than half of my hair in a rage decision. I'm an engineering manager at BlaBlaCar. My name is Kineret. I've been working at BlaBlaCar for 5 years now. When I started, I was head of data engineering, and this was a central data team. And since then, we've made a full circle journey to the data mesh, and we are a full-blown data mesh team now with full stack data squads. And this is what I'm going to tell you about. But first, a bit of context about the company that I come from, BlaBlaCar. It's super well known if you're French, but if not, I'll give you more context. So we see ourselves as the go-to marketplace for shared travel. We operate in 22 countries. We were one of the first tech unicorns in France. President Macron is very proud of us. We have over 100 million members, carpoolers, both drivers and passengers. Our first line of business was long-distance travel, so carpooling over weekends and vacation. But today we also have a line of buses that we operate. We sell bus tickets, we sell train tickets, and we have a separate standalone app for daily commute. So lots of domains. This will be important for the next points. Zooming into the data team, which is us at BlaBlaCar, we are 50 people, more or less, and we have 4 job families. So data analysts, data engineers, software engineers, and data scientists. We have machine learning models running in production. As we are a C2C company, we have hundreds of terabytes of data that we process, and we work with all of BlaBlaCar departments. So we started our journey with data mesh back in 2020. We read Zhamak Dehghani's article about data mesh that pioneered the whole idea. And we were excited because this really fed into the problems that we were experiencing. At the time, we were, as I said, a central data team. We were organized by profession. In the data engineering team, which I managed, there was a lot of friction within the team, inside the team. We couldn't decide what to work on. We weren't experts of anything at the end of the day because we were doing everything. And we weren't happy, our stakeholders weren't happy, so we were pretty convinced to start the data mesh journey. We asked around in our networks, can anybody give any pointers how to do this? And we couldn't really find any, so I think it's safe to say we were one of the first who started and made a migration organizationally and technically into a data mesh. 3 years in, we know the reorganization was a success, so I can honestly recommend. We achieved our goal because our problem was we couldn't scale. We couldn't, as the data engineering teams and the other teams were so busy battling different priorities, it was almost impossible to migrate new data sets, to create new domains. We made acquisitions and we couldn't follow up on the technical migration of these acquisitions into our company. So we did achieve our goal of scaling faster, delivering faster. However, 3 years in, we've also experienced different types of problems. I think they could be avoided, and I will focus on these 2 main points to consider while reorganizing into a data mesh. First principle, anticipate changes in domains over time. I cannot stress this enough. So the first pillar of the data mesh concept, the theory, is domain-oriented, decentralized data ownership and architecture, right? So you want to take your central teams and decentralize them into domains. You want to do that both organizationally and technically. And this way you can achieve autonomy to the data domains to deliver quickly and efficiently as possible. And indeed, we achieved this. We removed the friction within the central data team. And we stopped having to juggle different priorities because every domain has very small set of stakeholders and it's much easier to prioritize within these squads. And today these squads are working towards one common goal, or rather multiple common goals, but they're ordered by very clear priorities. However, data mesh incentivizes squads to deliver fast and dirty if you don't take a note of that early in your journey. It's problematic in the long run to do that, because in fact autonomy in these squads brings different practices. They create their own languages, their own way of defining KPIs, their own way of writing code, and levels of data quality can change, even levels of security. And you want to be careful for this reduction in standardization. Notice that, providing full autonomy can backfire. Why is this so harmful? I mean, of course, it's harmful that one team takes less notice of security than the other. Those risks are clear. But moreover, over time, the team needs changed. So at BlaBlaCar, we've experienced squads that in 2021, we defined them as 6 people. Suddenly, company priorities changed. They grew to 12 people. The squad no longer operates optimally, so we had to split it into 2. Another use case was that we reduced our marketing budget, so suddenly the marketing team shrinks, and we want to merge that squad with another. And suddenly you have people moving between squads, in and out of squads, and if they don't speak the same language, if they don't use the same stack, if they don't write code in a similar way, it'll be very hard to onboard new people in a swift way, and then you're losing what you were optimizing for while moving into a data mesh, which was delivering fast. Notice we didn't eliminate friction, we just moved it to another place. So within squads, there's no friction, yes, but between squads, that's where the friction moves to. And that's okay. It's something we can live with. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's not like there's zero friction. The fact that squads are operating towards one goal is what we wanted, but notice that the friction will go elsewhere, and you need to take note of that. And for that, you need to use the 4th principle of data mesh, which is federated computational governance. I had to read it like 10 times to understand it, but today, like actually living it, I think I can explain. This is actually what you can do to minimize the friction between your squads. You need to keep like horizontal governance bodies that govern this drifting that the autonomy brings. So we built 3 data governing bodies. One was data chapters. Data chapters are horizontal groups organized by profession. People who used to work in a team, in a central data team, today they're in the same chapter. So they meet once every week, and they have a dedicated bandwidth to work towards standardization between the squads. Another governance body that we created was a data governance forum. It's basically the architects and the senior ICs in the company get together once every 2 weeks to discuss different data governance topics. They inform one another. We don't make decisions, otherwise it'll be a bottleneck and a blocker. But we inform one another, and this way we keep in contact and we keep ourselves standardized. The last one is a data platform team. So this is kind of the basis of a data mesh organization. When you reorganize into domains, you need to have this data ops team that's responsible for tooling. So this team actually also governs as a kind of a blocker for people who want to implement their own stack. You can't do that because you have to go through the data platform team, and they will probably offer you a tool that already exists. That's about anticipate changes in domains over time. Believe me, it happens, and you want to get ready for that. Second pointer is data mesh is a mindset change rather than a tech migration. Well, it's both, but it's more important to focus on the mindset change, and you want that to be your focus at least at the beginning. I'll separate the two to try to define them so that we're all on the same page. So There's data mesh as a mindset, as a concept, as a culture, as an organizational shape. And then there's the technical migrations of assets into this new organization. For us at BlaBlaCar, it's a company that's over 10 years old, so you can imagine what our data warehouse monolith looked like. It started with one line of business, and then we just added patches of our different lines of businesses. And the technical migration for us meant detangling this monolith. It was too complex to even start thinking about that. So we started with an organizational change. We moved people into squads. We assigned assets to the squads, like on paper, you own this table, you own this other table. But we didn't start the technical migration until 1 year after. And by that time, people in the data teams were on board, squads were operating efficiently and towards one goal. They could prioritize this technical migration. It was already, it was in their interest at this point to really own the data sets and move them under their names. And also, I think if you don't do it this way, your data mesh journey will confuse your stakeholders, because if you're going to hold your tech migration as a bottleneck, people will not understand. So when is this data mesh happening? We made it happen first on the organizational level, and then we did the technical migration kind of more silently. By that point, our stakeholders were on board, everything was already happening. Example for this, even though the technical migration didn't happen yet, the data squads were already able to work super efficiently towards common goals. So they already sped up delivery. So actually our technical migration took longer time than it would have taken if we would have stayed in the central teams doing that migration. By the way we got people on board to this mindset was through continuous communication. So educating people, what does data mesh mean? What does that mean, in practice for you, for your domain? What should you expect? You should expect your data teams to deliver faster and to work towards common goals. And this is how we got both data people. There were also lots of people in the data services department that weren't really aligned with this change. I'm not going to work with my fellow data engineers anymore. So there was a lot of education, both internally to have people on board, and both internally in the company, the stakeholders. Note, don't skip the technical migration, because it's what makes it real. However, we don't think it's necessary. It's more important that people understand the concept, and then they can make decisions on their own, and it will the mesh will do its own work, and the technical migration can come after. So summary, and I'm going to make it 3, because even though I talked about 2, because 3 is a nice number. Anticipate changes in domains over time. Data mesh is a mindset change rather than technical. And the last point is from the do's and don'ts of data mesh article that I wrote on Medium, and I invite you to go read it. It's just don't go by the book. Read the theory, but adapt that to your specific use cases. For example, one of the principles of data mesh is data as a product. With full honesty, we didn't really take that principle and integrate that into our teams. We don't have data product owners or managers. This was a decision that we made, and we focused on the other principles, and that worked for us. That doesn't make it less a data mesh than others. So that's it. Thanks a lot, and inviting you to ask any question, to share from your use case.
Hi. You talked about the organizational change. So how do you manage this change, especially the business side, on the mindset of moving to data mesh from a monolithic and where they're used to it? How do you handle those challenges on change?
Thanks, good question. I wanted to actually focus on this, but I'm happy you asked this. We started with a POC, so we said, what is the easiest team that would look the best, that would operate the best as a data mesh? we chose a team that works very good with their stakeholders. Like not a team, they weren't a team yet, sorry. We chose a domain that worked pretty well. The machine was already well oiled. We said, we're setting this domain up for success. We created a POC squad, like we moved single people into a squad. We created one full stack data team while keeping all the others constant in their central data team. We communicated like heavily, like there's no over communication here, explaining why we were doing this, what like solutions you're supposed to see. You're supposed to see faster delivery. You're supposed to know who you're supposed to talk to if you have a question. So stakeholders were on board. And then after 3 months, we said, all right, is this working? Here were our success criteria. Yes, they do. And then we just moved all the rest in one batch.
Hello. Yeah? Oh, perfect. Yeah. I want to understand a little bit more about the organization change itself. Did you still, when you change it to squads, different squads, did you still keep it under one specific data management or responsible, or are there? Let me talk a little bit about my company's way of going to it. We have different business units. Inside every single business unit, we have specific data analyst team, data platform, and we are at a certain point like disconnected to other business units, and it doesn't really work. We are thinking about going to something more centralized or something in the middle. So I would like to know.
Understood. Yeah. Yeah. So this is maybe another example for how we didn't go by the book. I think based on the data mesh theory, you merge your domains to work within those business domains. We didn't do that. We kept everything under the data services umbrella. So we're still a data central team, actually. But within data, we're no longer organized by data engineers, platform engineers, data analysts. We're organized vertically by domain. And we get our priorities from people outside our organization in the business domain. So you don't have to, it's a very big change to move your whole, like spread your whole data team in one shot into the business domains. I wouldn't do that. I'm happy we did it in this like kind of merge way. Maybe the next step for us is to move into business domains, like take it one step forward. But we haven't done that yet, and stakeholders are happy and it's working. So maybe you can start this way.
Hiya. Another question about organizational change. So you said you did that proof of concept to kind of demonstrate to the business the value. But for data mesh to work, because I've never implemented it anywhere, I work for a bespoke consultancy agency, but I always think you need a client where you have buy-in across the whole organization, which is really hard to achieve. Was the change driven kind of just from the central data team you used to have, or was it driven from stakeholders at the top? Because I feel like unless it kind of goes from top down, it seems really hard. Or who drove that change initially, and how did you get everyone then on? I know for the POC, but it still seems like it needs so many people to be on board.
Right, it's true. It's hard to get people on board with a concept that you also haven't seen that's working elsewhere. It's just a buzzword for that manner. We were lucky because the engineering teams also organized by domains, and we just said, okay, we're the extension of that, and we're organized by the domains that complement this. So it actually made a lot of sense. But we just kind of hitchhiked on that ride. We were pretty lucky in that sense. I guess maybe as a general advice, you can connect that to a different change that's happening in the company and get top management on board by saying this makes sense because ABC.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you for talking through your experience. Can you tell us a little bit about the ratio of people? So in a domain, how many engineers to data scientists you have? Because I understand it's a full squad.
Yes.
Full stack from engineering to
right.
Analysts and data science, right? Just a sense of the size, because you said 6 squads of 6. So is that one data engineer, one data scientist, or what does it look like in practice?
Yeah, it depends. We have 6 squads in total and 1 data platform team that's responsible for tooling. Each squad has at least 1 data engineer and 1 data analyst. There's no squad if there's none of them. They're like the basics. And then if there's machine learning algorithms running as a part of this domain's like stack, then there will be software engineers and data scientists. So there's like different types of squads. And then for us, like 4 was the minimum in number of personnel, and then 10 is too much. 10 is too much because you start like, there's no point in having us stand up with 9 other people. I mean, it just doesn't work. Needs to split. Yeah. All right. Did you? No?
Have you had a scenario yet when, so you've divided your teams up into data domains, but then a senior stakeholder is asked for the data to be kind of merged across all the different domains, so you're starting to unify data. Have you had scenarios like that yet? Have you had any challenges with like getting someone who has knowledge across multiple different domains and bringing that all together?
Well, usually when we merged or minimized teams, it was based on company strategies changing. So we were kind of just answering the company's needs. So there was never any friction with top management or the stakeholders. Of course, the marketing team is unhappy when their budget is cut into, but that's nothing, like the data team can't help with that. That's more the business side, and the data team accommodates and needs to be quick to accommodate to these changes.
I was wondering why you haven't applied the data product principle.
It was just, why do we didn't apply the data product principle? Primarily because we didn't have enough budget to hire on top data product managers for each squad. That was our primary source. We were like, how are we going to do this? Because, you know, there is the perk of having a central data team of like a team of 9 data engineers. You can use half of them to do one big migration for one quarter, then use like 80% of them to do something super prio elsewhere. In the data mesh, you lose that flexibility because you have one serves every different squad. So we already had a problem of personnel because we needed at least 1 data engineer and 1 data analyst in each squad, and we wanted a lot of squads. We just didn't have the budget to hire on top a new role. So we said that the engineering managers, which I am one of, will act as data product managers, but we've never like done any training or anything like that. Yes, I supervise, you know, the vision of how my suite of data products looks like, but I'm not a trained data product manager, and I do that on top of my management role. So I can't say this principle wasn't focused for us. I guess you just can't win with all principles because you don't have unlimited budget. Or maybe you do, and then you're lucky. All right. There's the last question.
First, thank you for the talk. That was great. Quick question on people reception from moving to a technical-oriented team to a squad when they're not split and they're alone. And did you have to do some special operation and work to get them motivated and transitioning to a squad?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. Not everybody was on board, to be honest. Some people left, data engineers, and I don't think that's bad. I think, I mean, if you're a data engineer interested in working only with your peers and not having to deal with business aspects, with analysts asking you questions day to day, then you don't belong in a full stack data team. We need like different types of people. It's like we're changing the role essentially. But of course you don't want everybody to leave, so I don't recommend just a top-down decision. We really addressed that problem. We called it like the lone engineer syndrome that we really want to avoid. And this is why actually we created these chapters and gave them like a lot of time together and like budget to have fun together and time to learn and innovate. We did like innovation days for them. So they are like an established group they just don't work in the day-to-day. They don't meet each other every day for stand-up, but they do have a communication. So they're not completely cut off. And it took a long time convincing, honestly. And we didn't keep everybody who wasn't on board, unfortunately. But that's how reorganizations work. All right. Thanks, everybody.